Today, we're going to have a look at the top 5 players to buy into your FPL teams going into game week 5. What is up everyone, FPL Harry here, welcome back for another video. Today we are having a look at my top 5 players to buy going into game week 5. Of course, this video is having a look at 5 players I'm really considering buying into my team that you should be considering buying into your teams as well, across defenders, midfielders and forwards, and occasionally, if it's really worth it, goalkeepers, but there are no goalkeepers in this video. Before we dive in, 1,000 likes on the video is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here as well. If you like the data that is used throughout this video, it is taken from Fantasy Football Scout. They are still offering a big discount until the end of the international break, until game week 5 does start. So do check out the link in the description if you want data, fixture tickers, anything you could want. FPL is a great site and I used it for my videos as well. But the player number 1, probably the most talked about player going into game week 5 is Heung-min Son. 9.1 million now, but still just 10% owned. Still a reasonable differential among all players in the game, and I think he could be a great asset to go and buy. Now, there's a lot of talk about whether the short-term fixtures over the next 3 are worth buying him in, or whether we should be waiting until game week 8 when the really nice fixture run for Spurs does start. Personally, if you're looking for a midfielder to buy, I do think Son is my number 1 pick going into the weekend. Yes, of course, I wouldn't necessarily force him in, as I spoke about in my transfer plans video yesterday. I'm not going to force him into my team, but if you are looking for a midfielder, I definitely think he is one to look at. I personally do think he's going to stay playing up front for Spurs going into game week 5. There is a risk that Richarlison comes back in and Son goes back on the left, where he's by far a weaker asset. However, he was so good playing centrally in game week 5. Richarlison has had a late travel back from international duty as well. So I do think Son will start there again against Sheffield United in game week 5. The underlying data overall has not been that great, but he did put up over 1 expected return, which is very solid for underlying data in that fixture against Burnley. So if you are looking for a midfielder, Son is the guy. Next up, another midfielder and a cheaper option. If you are looking for a cheaper player, it is finally time to start looking at Diaby and those Aston Villa assets. It has been Bryan Mbeumo in this slot practically every single week, but of course he goes away to Newcastle. So if I was looking to buy a cheap midfielder this week, it would be Diaby. He's up to 6.6 million, but still under 10% owned. He looks really, really strong. He's playing up front alongside Ollie Watkins. Watkins has been a great asset, but a cheaper price, plus a midfielder as well. I really like what Diaby has the ability to offer. Looking at those underlying numbers, he has averaged 0.4 expected attacking returns per 90 minutes, but he has actually overperformed them. He has a real eye for goal. He's very confident when he runs forward. He is playing very far forward, and I do expect him to continue to be good for returns. Aston Villa have had a difficult run to start the season, which is why none of us have really had that many of their assets, but looking at their fixtures coming up that they do have, I think he could continue and even anything start to do even better than he has been. Crystal Palace, Brighton, Wolves, West Ham, Luton, those green fixtures in there. Chelsea away as well, they've been conceding chances, so still think even there. The next 6 fixtures are really nice. Aston Villa have one of the best runs. If you are looking for a cheap midfielder, Diaby, just 6.6 million. Pick number 3, we go up front, and is the man returning from injury for Arsenal. It is Gabriel Jesus. He played off the bench in game week 4. He's now played international duty, and I expect him to come back in to the Arsenal starting lineup to make sure he's fit and ready for them to go into their Champions League run. They have Everton away and Bournemouth away in the next 3, plus from game week 10 onwards, they have a really nice fixture run. For me, he is a good long-term hold. He's a great replacement for Jackson, who is not performing very well at the moment. Now, his underlying data isn't very useful because he's only played a few minutes so far this season, so his points per 90 are incredibly high because he's only had that 1 game off the bench where he did of course score very late on against Manchester United. However, I do think Arsenal are much better when he's in the team. Saka looks better, Martinelli looks better, Odegaard looks better. He links the play really well, and I do think they'll want to get him back in straight away. They've not performed that strongly so far in the opening few games. They've got results, but maybe some of the performances could have been a little bit better. So I do think they'll want to start turning that around very quickly, and I think Jesus is key to doing that. He's had a price drop down to 7.9 because of that injury, and he's still very, very low owned, 2.3%. If I was looking to buy a forward into my team this week, which I'm probably not, I do think Gabriel Jesus is the best at his price. However, another option, a cheaper option, is going to be Morris of Luton Town. 5.5 million and just 1.9% owned at time of recording. I expect that price and that ownership both to go up before, of course, they have the double in game week 7. The reason I like him is he's played 90 minutes in every single game so far this season. He scored 1, assisted 1. He's on penalties. He's the main man for Luton. Now, I don't necessarily expect Luton to score loads of goals over the next few weeks, but the reason I favour buying Luton assets over Burnley assets for that double in game week 7 is those fixtures they have around the double. Fulham and Wolves in the next 2, plus Nottingham Forest in game week 9 means if you ever rely on your bench player, Morris is the one to go with. There is also not really one nailed player that I would pick at Burnley. You could go Foster up front, but he's not on penalties. He's not nailed to play 90 minutes every single game. So I do prefer Morris just for that solidity, and I think he's a really nice option. If you watched my transfer plans video yesterday, I do plan on having him in my team for that double in game week 7. And finally, it is pick number 5. We're going in defence, and it is Kieran Trippier. Generally, the Newcastle defence are really nice, so you could also look at Botman and Schar, but Trippier, if you can afford any of them, is definitely the one to go with. It is finally time that the Newcastle defence does become appealing. People are going to comment straight away, Harry, why do you continue to recommend Newcastle defence? They have kept 3 clean sheets in their past 20 plus Premier League games, but their online data still looks really strong. They have the 6th best expected goals conceded so far this season, despite having played Manchester City, Liverpool, Brighton and Aston Villa in their opening 4 games. Looking at their fixture runs, Brentford this week, you don't necessarily need your Newcastle defender this week, but I do think they can still do well. Sheffield United, Burnley, Crystal Palace and Wolves, all in their next 6 games is a very, very nice run. Trippier's underlying data is still good with 0.15 expected assists so far this season. It is down from 0.35 compared to last season though. With Tonali coming in, taking some set pieces, it does diminish his appeal very slightly. Schar is also worth his price at 5, with last season getting 0.2 expected returns per 90 in terms of an attacking sense compared to 0.35 for Trippier. And then if you go and buy Botman at 4.5 million, he drops down a little bit again at 0.15 expected attacking returns. So basically the conclusion is Schar, Trippier and Botman for me are all good assets and they're worth the price you're going to pay for them. If you go and buy Trippier, you're going to get the most attacking threat. If you buy Schar, you get a cheaper option, but you get more attacking threat than you are if you buy Botman, who is the cheapest option of the lot. Personally, Fabian Schar is the one I've got my eye on. I don't have the room in my team to go up to Trippier, but if I could, and if I had the money to do it, Trippier would be the one I'd buy for Newcastle. I do think getting a Newcastle asset in for their run, particularly defensively, is very, very good. There's not many defenses in the league performing well at the moment, and I'm hopeful that it might be Newcastle over the coming weeks. So, top 5 players to buy. We've had an expensive midfielder, a cheap midfielder, expensive forward, cheap forward, plus Kieran Trippier. So we've had expensive defenders and actually the cheap defenders in Schar and Botman as well. I'd probably be looking to buy these over Udogie because Udogie does have difficult fixtures in game week 6 and game week 7 as well. So top 5 players to buy. Let me know if there's anyone you're buying who's not in this list. Any questions you have about players to buy, drop it all in the comment section down below. As always, I answer all the questions made in the first half an hour of the video, but all those notification crew. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you've got those notifications on. If you do enjoy these videos, you like the stats used before the international break ends, there is a massive discount still at Fantasy Football Scout. Check out the link in the description, like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.